Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So on this episode, we're going to be chucking in a small case diff into the e36, so stay tuned. So to do the swap, you're going to need a small case drive shaft out of a 4-cylinder. We're also going to need to either use axle spacers, or we're actually going to upgrade the outer CVs on each axle. These are actually a little bit longer, so we won't need axle spacers, as well as we're also going to need longer diff bolts. These are M10 by 50. You're also going to need to retain the ears out of the medium case. So if you don't have a medium case to start with, you're going to need to find some medium case diff ears. You need to chop 10 mil off them, but we'll go through that. So the first step's just going to be jacking the car up and getting the axles loose and getting them out of the car. So we've just got the wheels off. First job is just going to be to hit the little lip on the axle nut. That way we can loosen it up. Might have noticed we just popped the center caps off the wheel. That's because they're going to go back on. We'll lower the car back down onto the wheels. The car will be held enough to undo the axle nuts. So we're just going to get cracking on doing the axle nuts. So we've just popped the wheel back on, put it back on the ground, and then we're just going to use the extension to take it off. It's a 32 mil socket. Wow, that was definitely not tight. Yeah, sweet, easy peasy. So we just dropped the exhaust just to get to the drive shaft. We're going to get past the heat shield which sits on the exhaust. So I've just dropped the exhaust just to be safe, and then we should be able to get to the drive shaft. So the heat shield's all off, the drive shaft's exposed. We've just gone and undone the bolts there, or just break them loose. We're just going to tackle these axle nuts just while the car is able to be put in gear with the drive shaft connected. That way it'll hold the diff. It's not going to be turning or anything like that. Okay, so all the axle nuts are broken loose now. Good thing we're actually changing the CV here. Looks like there is a bit of damage there. It was really hard to get the nut off. I had to actually pop the boot off. I'm not sure how that's happened. But yeah, we'll crack on. Okay, so the diff is out. Not sure how much you saw. Just don't forget to unplug the electrical connector like I did. The diff was just hanging there and I was wondering what was holding on. So yeah, this is a medium case. Got a small case here. You can see there's quite a big difference in size. But hopefully she should hold up for some skids. Otherwise we'll chuck the medium case back in. All what I'm doing is pretty much reversible, so if we need to go back to it, we can always just weld up the 294 and go send it. Okay, so now comes the fun part of trying to hit the axles out of the hubs. They're notoriously hard to get out. So we've got 2 hammers. I'm just gonna try with the big one, see if we get any movement. Easy. Looks like that one's coming out, no worries. Just grab a socket. Easy peasy. All right, now we'll try the other side. In theory, this one should be easier because I believe the axle nut's been off before. Look at that. It's easy as. Easy. Now, just a little trick if yours are stuck in the hub. What we've had luck with before is you just get 2 hammers, preferably one that is like the same on both sides. And then you put one here on the axle, and then you get the other hammer and you hit the bottom of that hammer until you get it out. Usually with a big hammer, you can get a massive swing at it, and we've had great luck with axles that have been like stuck in there. So basically what we're gonna be doing is replacing the outer CV to the stronger one. So the part number is here. Chuck it up on the screen. I'm not gonna pretend that this is a new idea. I actually got this from Mike Lake, so credits to him. Basically, the first thing we're gonna do is punch off the outer cup here, and then we'll be able to undo the circlip and slide this old CV off. So we'll get cracking. Seems like the circlip's a little bit hard to get out. We only have internal, external pliers. So we just ran a super cheap, got this, so we should have what we need now to take that out. Alright, so we've just taken the CV off, and we've also just taken off the boot. So yeah, you can visibly see this is the old axle, which is pretty cooked. This is the freshie. It's obviously a lot beefier. And then yeah, so it should be good. Just one thing not to forget is make sure you put the rubber boot on before you smash the CV on, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. Also just gonna drill out these bolts holes to M10. If you get the CVs, you will need to drill out these holes to M10. So if you've got a drill press, you can just do that. These are already done because we already bought them pre-done. We'll just drill out this one to 10 millimeters and we'll keep going. All right, so we're just gonna shove the new boot on. There she goes. Now we're just gonna chuck the new CV on. This is gonna be actually quite a tight fit. There you go. This isn't the most ideal setup. Ideally you'd like to have a vise, but I don't have one. But it's actually slid in pretty easily. You just want to use the 30 millimeter socket that we used for the axle on there and hit that just so you're not smashing the CV. And you should hear that it changes sound once it's home. You can see the groove, the circlip is now visible. So we'll whack that bad boy on. Sweet, there she is. The last thing to do is just going to be to whack this little cover plate on there. Should fit, and we'll just chuck grease on before that. I'll just chuck you on time lapse and we'll do the other axle now. Axles are all done, we've just packed them with grease and then we've hit the end caps on. The next step is just going to be, we have to take the ears off the medium case and slap them on the small case. We'll need to chuck off about 10 mil, but we'll get to that later. So you can see the medium case ear is a lot bigger than the small case. These accept M8s, these are M10s. There's also a size difference in the spline, so we'll have to take 10 mil off this spine. So we'll just go and do that now. Alright, so here's the finished product. We've just managed to also chuck a little bit of chamfer on the splines just to help it go in nice and easy. Here's it compared to the old one. Another thing you'll have to do is bend down this little seal edge here. Shouldn't really affect the sealing as it's done internally here. So we'll just bend this out of the way just because it'll foul with the bolts on the diff. There you go. We can see we're just narrowly missing the bolts there with that little bend. That's it. We just need to fill up the diff with oil and then she's ready to go back in the car. So we're just going to swap in the new drive shaft now. So this is the old drive shaft out of a medium case. This is the new one out of a small case. So you can see they're pretty close, but the small case is obviously a little bit longer just because the diff itself is shorter. All right, so our diff's all ready to go in. We filled her up with oil and yeah, we'll just keep cracking and chuck her back in the car. Fortunately, we've hit another snag. It looks like this hole on the small case isn't actually threaded. Not sure if the threads are ripped out of mine or if it's just different. So I'll have to run down to the store. I believe what you'll need to get is an M12 by 100. Should be long enough. All right, so we just picked up our new bolt. It's just a galvanized bolt, not really ideal. You probably want a high tensile bolt, but should be good enough for now. We'll just chuck that in and we'll torque up the diff. So we've just chucked in the drive shaft. She's all done up, just loose for the moment. All right, so it's now time to chuck the axles in. So I've already gone ahead and chucked in one. Looks like it fits up all good. The bolts look to be basically the perfect size, which is great. And yeah, we'll just chuck them in. The rear axles are all in, the sway bar's in. Now we're just going to do that heat shield and the exhaust, and then she should be good to go. Alright, so that heat shield is in. I'm not going to bore you with putting the exhaust back on, but we'll just do that now and then we're good to go. Alright, so exhaust is back on. Bit of a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. Now we're good to lower the back of the car. It's a quick update. We've actually broken one of the CVs, the brand new CVs that we put in, which is supposed to be stronger than the stock ones, which is crazy. I think what's happening is, I'll throw up a photo, but the axle stubs have different split ring locations. That's causing the axle to not be locked in. And what happens is actually being pulled out of the diff when it's under like compression or the suspension's being worked. And what's happened is that's being pushed out and it can't be pushed back in. So that's squashing the CV and causing that to happen. We could mess around. I did try to cut a second groove on the medium case axles for that split ring, but just with our lathe, we don't really have the right tooling to be able to do that. This is pretty hard steel. So we're actually just gonna weld up the medium case. I think it's gonna be good enough. Just weld it up, slap it back in, and everything should be pretty much good to go. I've really been stuck on this for like a week or two, and I really just want to drive the car. So we're just gonna slap the medium case in. So we just made these plates, which perfectly fit in between the spider gears like so. And then we'll obviously zap some welds in there. Don't have a welding setup, so we're just gonna go to Pilchies and we'll get him to weld it up for us. So we just got the diff to Pilchies. We're just gonna clean it up with some brake cleaner and air just on the spider gears. And then she's just gonna heat her up and lay some beads. All right, just heating her up.
Diff's welded, she's mint. All the boogers. Yeah, should be locked up nice and tight now. Just gonna go for a cheeky little spin in Pilchy's vert while we're just waiting for the diff to cool down.
Absolutely. Fuck, this might actually have some power now. It's weird.
So we got the medium case back in the car, took it for a drive, and everything's working as it should. No strange noises, no axles popping out, so I think she's all fixed. You could probably make the small case diff work if you cut a second groove on the axle stubs for the split ring, or if you just weld the axle stubs into the diff. Wasn't really prepared to do that, so I think just welding the medium case is going to be the best solution. We are just trying to get the car done on a time crunch to get it ready for its first drift event. The keen out among you may have noticed that we swapped the rear suspension while we were dropping the diff, so that'll be in the next video. We're just going to chuck in budget coilovers and a budget angle kit to get it ready for its first drift event. So make sure you get subscribed for that video, and if you haven't already, give this video a like. It's literally free and helps the channel out heaps, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.